let's check in and see if Justine is with us now. Justine, are you there?
Now. I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now? How are you?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Sorry.
That's okay.
Good morning and happy Thanksgiving weekend to you.
You too. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
So today we'd like to talk about, holiday eating, and can you give us some tips on how to maintain our figure?
Absolutely. So tomorrow is the big day, which means typically an overindulgence of food, and then you're feeling stuffed and your stomach hurts, and then you feel guilty the next day. So I really want to help people avoid that trend.
So you've been to my house then?
Yeah, I've been to quite a few houses, yes.
So what are some tips that you can share with us?
So I think the first tip is to maintain healthy portions. So it depends on, you may be home and cooking, or you may be going to a family's house or a friend's house. But whatever is being served, I think just portion control is helpful to keep in mind, and you don't necessarily need 2 and 3 servings of something.
And Justine, can you tell us what a typical portion is? Because a lot of times people put way too much.
Sure. So, for example, a 3 or 4 ounce piece of meat, so for turkey, is about the size of the palm of your hand or a deck of cards. A 1 cup serving of, say, mashed potatoes is actually the size of a clenched fist. So, like half of that would be a half of a cup. So just keeping something like that in mind. And if you are going to have sweets, like you are going to have some pumpkin pie, which I will
have to have some pumpkin pie.
Yes,
wouldn't be Thanksgiving without it, would it?
Yes. And pumpkin pie by itself actually isn't that unhealthy. It's all the other things we put on top of it, which is the whipped cream and ice cream and all of that fun stuff. But just keeping it to a nice little sliver versus half of a pie, and then you have pie for breakfast the next day.
With the turkey, of course, for the next month, right?
Yeah,
next few weeks.
And you don't know why your pants don't fit. So.
We talk about all kinds of things that are traditions for Thanksgiving. Is there any one thing or 2 things that you can think of that we should absolutely avoid?
I think that probably eggnog is something I would try to check off the list as far as something to avoid, mainly because it's so packed with calories and sugar. But I do understand it only comes around during the holidays and as a little bit of a treat. So, I'll just have a little sip of it because I'm at my parents' house and they have it, and just to have the taste, and then I'll be done with it. But a cup of eggnog could have almost 400 calories and 60 grams of sugar, which, to put that into perspective, is equivalent to about 15 teaspoons of white sugar, which is more than a lot
of sugar.
More than a soda. Yeah, that's a lot of soda sugar.
Yes.
Soda's not good either for any time. But that just really gets stored as fat and goes right to your hips. So there's really no need to have too much of that.
Now, do you have any tips as far as, a lot of us going to holiday parties and, get-togethers with families, so we don't overindulge?
Sure. So one thing that I always like to do, I've been doing this for a long time, is I actually will eat before I go to a party.
What, that sliver of pumpkin pie?
Yes, yeah, I'll have some pie. No, I try to have something that'll hold me over, like something with protein and a vegetable, maybe like a little turkey sandwich or something where you have food on your stomach so that when you show up, because sometimes the party actually won't provide really much food. It depends on, what kind of event it is. But you won't show up starving. So if they do have food, you won't be running over to the appetizers and the dessert table and just keep picking on things.
Or to the bar.
Or the bar, and that's another point. So if you go to a holiday party and you have nothing on your stomach and you have, a drink of, a glass of wine, it kind of hits you harder than it normally would because there's nothing to absorb the alcohol. So then you might have more drinks than you would have, and then, especially if it's like a work event, then you might regret something you said the next day.
Or did.
And then you're at the gossip of the office. So we really want to avoid that too.
Plus, it's very fattening, a lot of the drinks as well, I would assume, correct?
Absolutely. So all alcohol is empty calories. There's nothing nutritious about any alcohol.
Not even an apple martini. There's no apple in it.
No, there's no real apples in the apple martini. But I like wine, so I'll have a glass or 2 here and there. But just to keep it in mind of the calories. So I always say go for something that's a little bit lower calorie if you are going to drink.
What are some of those lower calorie options, like wine?
Yeah, so a glass of wine can have about 120 calories. I mean, it depends on how full the glass is, of course. A glass of champagne is about 80 calories. You could just do like a vodka and soda, where it's 1 ounce of vodka, and that's about 60 calories. Or even just a light beer, which could be 100 calories or less. Just stick to 1 or 2 of those, and then, you'll be relaxed for the party, but then I would probably cut it off at 2 drinks max, and then drink water.
Justine, is there any particular really good time to eat a meal to fully digest it? Some people talk about eating way earlier, 4 or 5.
I mean, even when it's not the holidays, I always say to eat your dinner probably by like 7 o'clock at the latest, because you want your body to have at least 2 or 3 hours to digest the food, so that when you go to sleep, it's not just sitting there and then just collecting as fat. So especially on a bigger meal like Thanksgiving, my family, we've always eaten early, maybe around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon at the latest, because then once you eat your meal, the tryptophan in turkey, that's what makes us tired. So that's going to kick in. You're going to feel a little lethargic. And then when you recover, it's a great time to maybe go for a walk, and then you can burn off some of the food you ate.
Or another sliver of that
or later,
pumpkin pie.
And if you find yourself in front of the pie, then again,
step away from the pie.
The pie needs, and that's another tip. Don't make too many pies.
No, or give one to your neighbor.
Give them away. Just freeze them. I once got really ambitious. It was Halloween, and we had some uncarved pumpkins. So I took those pumpkins and I actually made them into pumpkin pie. So I had like 4 pies because it was so much pumpkin. It was a lot of work.
You were busy, weren't you?
I wouldn't do that again, but I froze the pie, and for a year, and then the next year we defrosted it for Thanksgiving, and it tasted perfect. So if you make extra, just freeze it.
It would last for a whole year?
It lasts for a whole year, and it actually tasted completely fresh, and it was defrosted.
Are you from up north by any chance?
I once lived in New Jersey, and currently I live in California, but now I'm visiting my family in Texas.
I was asking because I'm from New England, and it's a tradition up there to eat dinner at 1 or 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Generally after a high school football game on Thanksgiving morning. Come home in the snow and nice and warm and have a hot turkey, and it's just great.
It is great because, again, it's daylight, you're enjoying football, you're enjoying each other and your family, and then you're not going to bed too full.
Mm-hmm. I've got one question I want to ask you about a part of the Thanksgiving feast, and it's fairly new, relatively speaking, but green bean casserole, is that good for you or not so good for you?
It sounds like it would be good because you hear the word green beans. However, if you look at all the ingredients, we have mushroom soup, which is cream of mushroom soup. So you have all the cream, you have all the sodium from soup. Then you have the fried onion rings that you put on top. And if you combine it all, it's really a very unhealthy dish. So even talking with my parents yesterday about what we're going to make, I'm like, can we just skip the casserole? Because I don't even like it. I'd rather just have green beans. Just plain green beans.
It's much better for you.
Just steam some green beans and we're good.
Yeah. That's one of my favorites. It's just something about it I just have come to love.
And that's fine. So if you have it, again, it's just having a little bit and just, a nice little dollop versus, huge fistfuls.
I generally eat the whole thing, but that's another story.
So what other tips do you have for us?
I think that drinking lots of water is important.
Oh, that's a good one as a fill, huh?
Yes. Oftentimes our body thinks it's hungry when it's actually thirsty. So if you ever feel hungry, just drink water in general and see how you feel afterwards. But also there's just a lot of hidden sodium in the Thanksgiving meal, in the broth, and if you make mashed potatoes, you got the butter, and it just adds up. So normally a healthy range of sodium is considered about 1,500 to 2,300 milligrams, which still, if I had that much, I would be extremely water retentive the next day. And Thanksgiving could have way more than that. So by drinking water actually helps you reduce water weight and helps reduce bloating. So the next day, if your pants are a little bit tight, just drink extra water, and after a couple days, that water weight will go away.
Okay, well, we'd like to thank you for being a guest today on the Crossroads Show, and we wish you
hungry.
Me too, especially for some pumpkin pie. Well, thank you for joining us, and stay warm where you are.
Thanks so much. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
All right.
Thank you.